You're getting two dudes talking about whatever they want to talk about, sort of. Welcome back to Pipecast, month of September 2020. You guys thought we were dead in the water, but somehow we have resurrected it. We're making it a monthly thing.
Yeah.
We're trying to make it work.
It lasted 3 months last time. We'll see how far we can make it this time.
This time I feel like we're going to go the stretch. We've got some new direct. This is going to be kind of an old format you guys are used to, where it's just sort of rambling. But we're actually going to try to format these a little bit more. So we've got kind of a schedule of things coming up. We're going to actually have talking points, hopefully, and we can actually sort of go through and make this more coherent, where at least you guys have a guide of what we're going to be doing. We're not getting rid of like pipes and tobacco or anything like that. We'll still do the reviews of things. We're actually smoking something new right now. But we're going to have reviews of film and books and short stories.
Yep.
Something that we like to do is read and sort of discuss. Then, of course, we'll have our pipes and tobacco to discuss as well. So you want to talk about some of the future content coming up?
Yeah. So, like he said, we're going to keep it to month to month type thing. So it may be on like a little rotating kind of basis where we'll pretty much always, of course, talk about pipes and pipe tobacco. But it may rotate between like a book, and then maybe the next time will be a short story and like a movie review. And maybe not necessarily a movie review, maybe sort of like a thematic movie review, if that makes sense. Sort of movies that fit inside themes. So it might be multiple movies that we discuss. Don't really want to paint ourselves into a corner.
No.
But yeah, I mean, with next month being October, we of course might be getting a little spooky with some of the content.
Oh yeah.
I think we got a little theme that'll entice you, something that a little bit different that you might not be expecting. For this episode, with the Dune movie coming up, we're going to be reviewing book 1 of book 1 being Dune. So, book 1 of the Dune cycle or Dune chronology, whatever it is.
Yeah, so it's a 3-split book.
Yeah.
It's one book. Dune is the book we will be discussing. It's split into 3 sections, also called books. So it's a little confusing, but we're going to be breaking down the first Dune book, which is going to be made into a film, into 3 parts. There'll be Dune, Muad'Dib, and the Messiah.
Yeah. And
we're going to do it, per episode. We might not do them straight away.
Yeah,
we might have some gaps in between, but before December hits, we should have discussed all of the parts.
And at least from what I heard is the movie will be split into 2. Mm-hmm. Which my only assumption is that parts 1 and 2 will be in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll at least have everything done by December that will be in the movie.
Right.
At least. Or we hope. But yeah, that's sort of a thing. We're
going to discuss a little bit of Dune today.
Yeah.
Kind of get it kicked off.
Yeah.
If we don't, we're going to be behind. So it's going to be a little bit more of a free-form review.
Yeah.
But then as time progresses, hopefully we're going to do more and more things that are going to be like a little bit more geared towards topics.
As you'll start to realize, I am not the literary mind here. That is Zach, so he'll have the more in depth. I'm the, what would you say? I'm the proxy. I'm the audience proxy.
Yeah.
I'm like the Ant-Man in the Avengers. I'm just there to relate to the audience.
Right. I mean, I'm not like literary criticism can be kind of complicated. I'm not really a literary critic. I can tell you guys if it's like some of the themes we'll discuss, and Patrick and I will have some stuff to go over, and then we'll just kind of talk about maybe a little bit of the characters, things we like, things we don't like, whether or not it's worth a read, and if it's entertaining. Of course, I love Dune. Patrick likes Dune, so it really is going to defy criticism because we're probably only going to approach you with things that we like. The only thing that might be off from that is we do want to discuss some of the short stories of H.P. Lovecraft.
Yep. And all of his buddies.
Right, and I'm actually not a there are some H.P. Lovecraft stories I don't like. Call of Cthulhu is not particularly good. in my opinion. It's a epistemology or yeah. It's a letter it's a form letter. Like, and I don't like those all the time. They're not particularly interesting if they're not well written.
Yeah.
We'll discuss it more when we get to it. But there are things that we'll approach you guys with that are like staples of something.
Yeah.
But that I'm not a big fan of. We just approaching it in that term. So not everything's going to be a favorite of ours.
Yeah.
But
And again, sort of coming back to being sort of like me being along for the ride. I am a fan of Lovecraftian things. I am not as well versed in his actual stories. I believe I've only read 2. I've read The Call of Cthulhu and The Outsider, which I'll read some as we go. And that'll be another thing too, talking about like movies. We'll be reading some Lovecraft short stories, and then there's like 3 or 4 Stuart Gordon movies that are based on Lovecraft.
And it'll be interesting to go through the Stuart, because so like there's a lot to discuss. If you were to read, say, From Beyond, which is a Lovecraft story, and do a comparison of From Beyond by Stuart Gordon,
yes,
the From Beyond that Stuart Gordon brought to the table is sort of, to me, it is more related to Hellraiser.
Oh, okay. From Beyond the movie?
From Beyond the movie is more akin to Hellraiser than anything. And Hellraiser, as Patrick knows, and we will discuss, is a part of my, is really a part of my gay horror trilogy. Like, what I consider the 3 prominent, like, gay movies for horror, like, literally, like, gay themed, like, talking about, that community, like, that horror community. Like, Hellraiser and 2 others really kind of fit that mold.
Yeah. Be expecting that for next month.
Right.
So
we'll be discussing, like, the kind of but From Beyond has that same
kind of
thing going on with it, where it's very sexualized, very BDSM. Like, their whole part, like, it's really bizarre, where it's sort of, I'd have to rewatch it. And to be honest with you, the first time I watched it, I was like, you think it's one thing, it takes you in a completely different direction.
Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's not. If you like what it's doing and it goes off into a different direction, sometimes that can be a negative.
It's a little hokey.
I watched the first half of Castle Freak, which I believe is supposed to be based on The Outsider, which, being one that I have read, it's way different.
People can't adapt Lovecraft. It's very difficult to adapt him.
I watched half of Reanimator.
Reanimator, I mean, might as well just say I made a Frankenstein movie. It has nothing to do with H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah. So that was one thing I was going to say is, me and Zach come from 2 different avenues of horror. So I'm a product of, I don't know, somebody who liked the atmosphere that was built in John Carpenter's Halloween, and that has sort of shaped my entire mindset of horror. You are definitely a 80s body horror kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sort of diving into that too.
But I had to get to that. No one starts there, I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone has ever began with, like, David Cronenberg, Stuart Gordon.
Or like even The Thing. I don't know if you would start there.
Or Carpenter to a certain extent. You just don't start. No, man, people don't start there. I mean, like, you got to think of it like this. It's like, how many people do you know that know Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Chucky, or Charles Lee Ray? They probably don't know him as Charles Lee Ray, but they do know him as Chucky, or the Candyman. Maybe even a little less so the Candyman, but like these iconic Leatherface, killers. Anyone can name those. Not everyone can name, Brindlefly or whatever from The Fly, or I don't even know what the villains really don't. They kind of forego names like The Thing and The Thing. Like, people don't really think about that.
Or the priests in Hellraiser,
right?
A lot of people know Pinhead.
They'll know the Cenobites to a certain extent. They probably won't know the full extent of them. I mean, it's actually shocking to me. I went to a Spirit Halloween over the weekend, and I actually still see Beetlejuice costumes, and I still see, like, things from my youth.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like Beetlejuice came out in what, 88? So we're what, 3 decades behind that now?
Hmm.
Close to, yeah, no,
And it
wait.
hasn't been remade.
And it hadn't been remade. The cartoon hasn't been out in 3 decades. It's actually shocking that people still know who Beetlejuice is.
We may need to do an episode on that. The fact that there's some movies or intellectual properties that can stand the test of time and also not be sequelized or remade or rebooted or, you know,
My wife and I had an argument about that. Like, 'cause there was two costumes, and she said, "Who knows?" I can't remember what the other one is. I swear. She was like, "Who knows who that is?" And I was like, "Well, who knows who Beetlejuice is?" You know, at least Friday the 13th,
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Nightmare on Elm Street had remakes.
Yeah, they continue to have sequels and remakes and
But Beetlejuice was a one and done.
one of them things.
You know, I mean, how many? I mean, it sort of defies it a little bit because it's like, well, I mean, anyone can watch it.
Yeah.
But it's like, are people really watching Beetlejuice to that extent?
What's funny about Beetlejuice?
And these are kids' costumes. That's why it's confusing.
Yeah. What's funny about them is it's almost like, which would you classify Beetlejuice? What kind of movie? What genre does it fit?
Horror comedy.
Horror comedy. So I guess because it is horror comedy, it sort of transcends horror because Beetlejuice to me is talked about in the same vein as like Breakfast Club. Like it's something that like hipsters attract to.
Hipsters attract a Breakfast Club?
Oh God! When I was fresh out of college, if not maybe my last few years of college, like Breakfast Club was like the bee's knees. Like if you didn't talk about Breakfast Club at least at one party, one weekend in a month.
The John Hughes movie.
Yes. Yes.
Like they're in detention.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's weird.
I know. And, I mean, nobody talked about Heathers, but
well, that's the thing. Is like, I mean, I assume you were going to say Heathers. If you're going to talk about like a continuation, a black comedy, something a little bit more niche, cultish, hipstery, I would say Heathers.
And that's the point I was trying to make, is that Beetlejuice, to me, is talked about in the same way as Breakfast Club. It's something that every millennial believes you should have seen, and it's perfection. And then
it's a really good movie.
Yeah, Beetlejuice is good, and I'll give it credit. But I'm just saying, it's weird that it fits in that category. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it's weird that you assume. It's weird that you not assume that you're telling me that people watched The Breakfast Club and held it in high regard that were hipsters. Now that's the key word. Now, if you say just millennials like The Breakfast Club, it's like, well, yeah, okay, you know, it's a staple of like Americana, I guess, or cinema. But like,
I never heard Breakfast Club being talked about outside of hipstery people. Now it could just be because I probably got to Breakfast Club later. I probably didn't watch it until high school, probably.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't think it was the bee's knees. I mean, it was fine. I mean, it had some cool stuff, but
I never really cared for most, like, you know, everyone, this is like sacrilege, but like the only John Hughes movie that I really liked is Home Alone.
Yeah, Home Alone.
Like Say Anything, The Breakfast Club, 16 Candles, Pretty in Pink. I mean, the guy's a prolific writer, but he doesn't do anything for me.
I think we talked about it too. I liked it. Got panned real hard, but I liked the original Dennis the Menace. I think he helped produce it.
Oh, okay.
But
I know that he might have done St. Elmo's Fire. Maybe. I'm sure there's some other stuff in there that, you know, John Hughes did that I liked. Oh, Ferris Bueller's pretty good.
Well, see, okay. I was going to say, I think Ferris Bueller and Breakfast Club are the only two of his that I've seen. I haven't seen Pretty in Pink or 16 Candles or any of those.
Or Say Anything or anything like that.
Yeah, I haven't seen those. But I would just say both of them, definitely Ferris Bueller. If I'm going to watch a movie that gives me the vibe of Ferris Bueller, I'm just going to watch Risky Business. I'd rather watch that. Because it has a similar aesthetic, but Risky Business is better to me. But that's just me. I don't know. I look at movies as aesthetics. What are they? You know me.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
I like
I mean,
atmosphere. I like the visuals, the atmosphere. What is it trying to
you know,
establish?
you've I know you've shied away from having like sort of, or around me maybe is the best way to say it, or maybe you're shy about saying that you think it's a bias that I don't like when someone says something is cinematic, right?
Do I know?
Like, you know how you'll say, well, it's very cinematic, it's very the aesthetics, like you're talking about the visuals, I'm assuming, right?
I'm talking about the visuals and the emotions that they're. Yeah, what the camera
Right.
alone is trying to tell you.
And sometimes I think you shy away from that a teensy bit because you think that I don't like that or it's a bias. But like, I hate Tom Cruise. Like, I have like specific things that I don't like. Like, I don't like it's hard to watch a Tom Cruise movie because I don't like him. I don't feel like, you know, even before what you know, Scientology, I guess. You know, the whole like anti-Cruise, you know, when everyone was like, that guy's crazy. I was like, I always thought he was crazy.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't ever seem genuine to me. He always seems, it's almost like, I've never seen him act genuine. And then even when he's in front of people, you know, he always acted insane.
Yeah.
During, like, before the Scientology thing really broke, some dude tried to prank him with sprayed him in the face with like a water microphone. And then like he like really went off on this dude in kind of a really unnerving way, you know? And I was, but like even before that, you watch any movies, and even critically acclaimed movies like A Few Good Men, and he just doesn't seem real. I swear, like, people talk about like politicians and certain people looking like robots or being robots. That's the way I feel about Cruise.
Really?
It's hard for me to like get behind him. I mean, the closest thing I think I could ever support him, and I think it's because he's completely carried by Dustin Hoffman as Rain Man.
Oh, gotcha.
But I don't care about. I mean, Cruise just doesn't seem genuine enough for me to actually feel anything in his films.
Really?
That's why he makes such good sense in Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to feel anything. You just, stuff explodes and he runs a lot.
And he actually does the stuff, which you can, I guess, admire that at least. I guess if you're not gonna act.
Well, if you're not gonna act and you have zero emotional range, I guess it's good that you're hanging on the side of a plane catching hypothermia.
A glorified stuntman. A stuntman who acts well enough to be an actor.
Well, I mean, like, I would posit, like, what's the difference between a stuntman and an actor, you know? Like, in this day and age, like, what's your range of acting? Quirky, kind of funny with, like, a witticism?
Yeah.
I mean, like, show me the emotional range of most actors today in a Marvel movie. You'll find not a lot. They're essentially the same character over and over again. They have, like, 3 emotions. Funny, surprised, the action face, so I guess 4. And then the last one is the concerned, but there's no tears.
Yeah.
And that's about it. That's emotional range. Like, I think anybody can do that to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, there's some exceptions, but yeah, for the most part.
And like my favorite, but then like I'm still biased even to a deeper core level because I think that my favorite actor is Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
But for sure after 7 Easy Pieces, but I think solidified in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Jack is Jack. Jack Nicholson isn't.
He's not the character.
He's not the character. He's just Jack Nicholson. Yeah, the character is Jack Nicholson. I mean, because like, we'll go watch '89 Batman. Go watch The Shining. Go watch. You know, I mean, like the you know, you've got like Chinatown, and even that you're seeing like the semblances of Jack.
Yeah.
You know.
He's one of those actors that got to the point to where people liked that.
You just like him. I mean, he's just Jack and everything after. Definitely, seriously, like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, or he's just basically Jack.
Yeah.
And you just watch him, he's just Jack.
But then, as he ages, that sort of casting changes too, right? So, like, there's a difference between... It's still all Jack. But there's a difference between '89 Batman Jack and The Shining Jack than Anger Management Jack, because that's old Jack now. It's still Jack, but he's old Jack. It's a little bit more, not intense, just old man intense, I guess. You know, like you're terrified of him in The Shining.
Yeah,
But
but
you're
I would
also
say I would
terrified.
suggest that you're terrified of him in A Few Good Men, but he's
Oh
still
yeah,
Jack Nicholson.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like A Few Good Men and like Anger Management. That's old Jack.
Mm-hmm.
That's getting to that older Jack where you're intimidated, but this is an old man telling you
Mm-hmm.
this. You know, Batman. It's like, well, this is some spry little guy that'll cut you.
Right, right.
You know.
But he's not the Joker.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really not. If you kind of understand the concept of the Joker, Jack Nicholson does not play the Joker.
He
plays a gangster Jack Nicholson in clown makeup.
the Jacker.
Yeah.
That's the Jacker with that. Yeah, I'm with you. See, I have the same thing. I think you can easily tell in our conversations who was an early 90s person and who's a late 90s person. Because mine's like Vince Vaughn. Like, I like Vince Vaughn, but he's the same thing and everything. Now, he's gotten more range as he's gotten older. He definitely is trying.
But that's
to
the reverse of Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, he's doing a reverse. Early Vince Vaughn, he's the same in everything.
But I think if you don't have because Jack Nicholson's like, someone said, like, Jack Nicholson, how can you be cool for 5 generations of people? I mean, that's Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
Vince Vaughn really isn't that guy.
No.
However, I think for career longevity, just by the way social networking and all this stuff is kind of made up, and the way we understand and see things, I think you do have to sort of reinvent yourself. It's not like that's a new concept, but it does seem like it's a newer thing for like super celebrities.
Yeah.
They kind of have to come back and reinvigorate their career with something else. I mean, you've seen it with other people when their career's really taking a dive, like Travolta. You know, I mean, he had to come back. He's still riding that Pulp Fiction wave.
Yeah.
Who said that? Someone said that. I swear, someone says John Travolta's still riding the Pulp Fiction wave. Like, even in his later years.
I was about to say somebody who either reinvigorated their career the wrong way or still needs to do it. De Niro.
De Niro, yeah. But De Niro didn't, I mean, like, De Niro...
What was his last good movie before The Irishman? Was it Meet the Fockers? Well, okay, well, granted,
Define good.
Yeah, okay, yeah. But the last movie that made money.
I mean, like, I would probably, I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, comedies do make money sometimes.
Yeah, that's what
if
I'm
they're
saying.
cheap. Like, Dirty Grandpa probably made money.
Okay.
I imagine. Because, I mean, people like that kind of goof
Oh, I
comedy.
forgot he was in that. Oh, okay.
You know, he did that, you know.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like, in terms of, like, his last good role.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and say this.
I mean, 95's Casino. I mean, you gotta think, that's probably the last, I mean, because he did what? He did Heat and then Casino. And, like, it's not good. I can't think of anything else he's been in that I've actually appreciated. So.
And he wasn't even that good in The Irishman. Like, Pacino stole the show in that movie. And so did Pesci.
He was completely miscast.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah.
Now I gotta know if De Niro was anything after Casino. Clearly he was. That's a stupid suggestion. But to the...
It's just hard to remember everything he was in.
Well, I mean, like... I mean, everyone can point to, like, the iconic, like, Raging Bull, Godfather Part 2, you know...
Cape Fear?
Cape Fear, sure. I mean, it's fine, I guess. I was thinking of Taxi Driver and Casino and Goodfellas, King of Comedy. I mean, like, I like all those movies. Oh, well,
he was in Joker. I forgot he was in Joker.
Yeah, but...
he was a side character.
I'm talking about star role. I guess that's the way I thought of it. He's not supported too much.
Yeah.
He was in that Joy movie, but he's a side character in that.
He had to do something in the early 2000s.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. I think he was in... nothing where he starred, though. That's the weird part.
Yeah.
He was in that Analyze This movie.
Oh, yeah.
And Meet the Parents and Meet the Fockers.
Yeah.
So he really, after Ronin, and he was good in Ronin. Okay, so I loved Ronin.
I haven't seen
And
that.
Wag the Dog was really good, too. And I guess he was in Jackie Brown, but I didn't really consider him. So, yeah, so he had a pretty good couple of hits there, but I mean, I really think, like, outside of Ronin, and I'm sure someone would argue that Jackie Brown was really good. That's 97. Ronin's 98.
So anything after 2000?
anything 2000, I think he starts going to comedy.
Yeah. So, and then, yeah, I don't know. And then so now he's.
I guess it's just hard to be an old-ish man and be considered kind of like, a blunt force. I realize we've literally talked about movies. You know what? We'll shift gears a little bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say we talked about going back to form.
We're going back to form. This is not that episode. We're going to. It's we plan on having topics that we're going to discuss. I promise. Next episode, where we actually have kind of a set list. What we're going to do now is we're going to start to try to give you a guide into what we're going to do. Today, so we're going to talk about what we're smoking. We got a new tobacco in our bowls right now.
Yeah.
Pretty good stuff. And then we're going to, after we get through with kind of a twingy review, I think we're going to discuss a little bit about a future episode. So the next episode, and what I plan to talk about, and then we'll talk about Dune.
There you go.
So,
what are we smoking?
What are we smoking? We are smoking Byron Ventures Verge Engine Overdrive, which I'm kind of frustrated a little bit about this because I'd been planning to smoke KBV blends for a hot minute now. There is a reason why specifically I did pull the trigger on a couple of things, and we're going to get into that. But then Stuffing Things does the same. He literally just did a review, like just tried it, and his review's coming out Wednesday. And this is like the third time we've accidentally hit the same blend that guy does.
Yep.
Not that guy's got any. I mean, his YouTube channel's really good.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But it's always like, are you guys just coattailing this guy? It's like no. So the reasoning behind me smoking and Patrick smoking Verge Engine Overdrive actually goes way, 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 way back a couple years ago. In which I discussed, so this is kind of 2 years in the making, I discussed a blend called LJ Peretti's Number 8 Slices. Now, the reason why we discussed that and bought it is because of a pipe maker and a YouTuber, Eldritch Pipes, Chris Kelly, who recommended it. Now, I don't remember how I ran into Chris Kelly's page. I think it was when I was sort of going through looking for what this LJ Peretti was. I ended up stumbling upon him. The guy has pipes that he makes, which I don't think I knew that at the time, but he also has sensibilities in Lovecraft and stuff, so I got interested. And of course, he makes pipes. And then I just kept kind of Number 8 Slices was so good that I was like, well, this guy has really good taste.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just that good. I mean, it blew my mind. I really like Number 8 Slices. Very good. So I just started following. I was like, well, if he really likes it, chances are that I'm going to like it as well. And I kept following along. So Chris actually teamed up with Byron Ventures to produce, I think they're producing a couple, Goblin Mixture, but they also produced another one, his first kind of collaboration blend called The Patience of Dr. Silence. Now, you don't have to know that I think Blackwood, the writer, created a character similar, like a psychic Dr. Silence, but he's like a Sherlock Holmes type, investigative, but he's got psychic abilities or something like that. Sort of the occult detective, like the beginnings of that sort of genre, subgenre. But Chris created a pipe called the Dr. Silence pipe. Now, I've loved that pipe ever since I first laid eyes on it. I thought it was the coolest. It's a pretty much a straight billiard with a stovetop bowl and a plateau top.
Yeah.
It's a gorgeous pipe, and I've wanted it. And then he teamed up to create The Patience of Dr. Silence. So I went and read what this Patience of Dr. Silence was. And it is it's a Virginia with some Kentucky, and it's got a Tonquin flavoring. Now, if anyone knows anything about Tonquin beans and me, they know that I love 1792 flake, which is heavy Tonquin. So I'm pretty much game on if they've got some sort of Tonquin flavoring on top of that. So I jumped at the opportunity to try it. I ordered a couple bags. Then along the way, because Patrick is a good friend, but what Patrick is in the professional community, he's an enabler. And he suggested maybe that I should figure out you know, if the Dr. Silence put like commissions and stuff, he'd suggested this for about 2 years now. Patrick's like, you know, you love him so much, why don't you buy one of his pipes? Because he's an enabler. And I got an anniversary coming up, so I did commission a Dr. Silence pipe from Kiss Kelly, and it's being shipped today, which is Labor Day, so I should be getting it in a couple of weeks. So I want to do the review of the Patience of Dr. Silence with the Dr. Silence pipe, and I want to do kind of I'm assuming it's going to end up being just a love letter to Chris Kelly, but like a kind of review of the pipe as well.
Are we gonna read it too?
Probably we will read some sort of Lovecraftian, or maybe even a story of Dr. Silence.
Yeah, we could do that.
We could do, because I mean, Algernon Blackwood, is that his name, Algernon Blackwood? I think Algernon Blackwood wrote The Willows, which Lovecraft said was the greatest English horror story ever written. So I might read The Willows too, and do like a little sidebar, and then so it'd be like some short story stuff instead of like kind of guiding away from Dune.
Yeah, we can do the short stories along with the gay horror trilogy.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's a little aside, but we that's what the plan is, and the reason we got into Ken Byron Ventures. Along the way, you know, Patrick's a huge vapor guy. I've heard pretty stellar things about Verge and Overdrive, which is an 80% Virginia, 20% Perique blend. In the methodology, I guess, or the method, or McClellan is what I hear. Like very aged, very soured, fruity, delicious. So I got a pack of it, and that's what we're smoking right now.
It's very good. It's got a little bit more of a, I don't know if the right word is a kick or a punch, but it's got a little bit of something going on with it.
I like it. It's definitely more soured.
Yeah. Which,
if you're not really a fan of the vinegary kind of aged flavoring, it can be sweet. You sort of have to get through that sort of pungent vinegary upfront fermented kind of flavoring. I know some people don't like that. I like it. It's very present in like number 8 slices. And this reminds me of that. This also reminds me of Peter Heinrich's Curly Block. This reminds me of a few old McClellan blends. Now the thing is that I don't like to reference McClellan anymore. They're gone. You're never going to try them unless you want to spend a ton of money. But from what I remember, it does kind of have that sort of similar McClellan taste. But that shouldn't be something everyone's just reaching for. There's still good tobacco out there. McClellan, in my opinion, didn't really blend good English blends. Everyone talks about like Frogmorton, but it's like, it's fine. It's okay. Yeah. Frogmorton's fine. They did really good Virginias. That's what most people remember them for. But this, this Curly Block number 8 slices, that's really, really good stuff. So, I think this has that reminiscent of Curly Block for sure, in my opinion. And Patrick's tried Curly Block.
Yes, I tried it last week sometime, and I really enjoyed it. It was nice. Aside from all the problems with it, of how you have to get it and how much you have to get at one time, the preparation of it, it's a good blend. I think I would prefer, which I only smoked one of that and one of this, so I'm going on a one smoke of each.
Right.
I think I would prefer this.
It's definitely easier, but I've heard that he's not going to be able to procure the tobacco for long.
Really?
And it might actually he might not be able to blend it after this year.
Does that have to do with the old FDA stuff?
No, just like, 10-year Virginia, specific crops, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it might be just difficult to procure.
So either that or he may alter it, I guess, maybe?
Remember, he's a boutique blender, so he's not like doing mass production. So once it's gone, it's gone. That's why the Patience of Dr. Silence sold out.
Really?
It's sold out twice now. I got the pre-order, and then he put it back up. Pre-order sold out. Everything was gone. Then they pulled it back up, and I bought a couple more because I'd already tried it and liked it, which is the reason why I've actually given Patrick a pouch to smoke, because I want him to get like the full effect of the Patience of Dr. Silence.
Yeah.
It's very delicious, especially if you're a fan of for sure 1792 flake. You're going to like the Patience of Dr. Silence. It's lighter on the Tonquin, but it's actually sort of perfected. I don't want to get into it too much because I'm going to talk about it, but like that Tonquin flavoring's there and it's delicious.
Yeah, I'm excited to do it. I should be wrapping up reading Dune. Once I wrap up reading all of Dune, I'm going to start a new book, and I'm going to load my long Dublin.
Yeah.
Load it down because it's got, it's a taller bowl, not as tall as a Dr. Silence, but it's tall and it's got real thin walls, so
Right.
it's perfect for
Yeah.
a
And I
long
seem to,
smoke.
I don't think anything burns cool with me. It does at the beginning. If I really try hard, I can keep my pipes burning relatively cool.
How hot is that to you?
It's not.
I was over here like freaking out, like, man, I got it hot.
I mean, fill mine. I mean,
Gee, Willie. Okay.
a little warmer, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a tendency to be a hot smoker. I have to really. Hey, this is actually light in comparison to what I usually am, because if I'm smoking in silence, I like to puff. If I'm talking, then I don't usually have the
Take
pipe
your
in my
time.
mouth. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to the Dr. Silence, but now Verge engine overdrive. Yeah, I like it. Going back to a little bit, you were talking about how you started to appreciate Chris Kelly's opinions and stuff. I'm not holding this against him because I don't. People's opinions are their opinions.
Yeah, everybody, watch out! Patrick might just get slapped across the face.
He did a review of Haunted Bookshop, and that was not a good. I mean, it was a good review, but he did not like it.
Haunted Bookshop is a hard. Okay, so Haunted Bookshop is. I like it. It's fine. Okay, it's definitely a serviceable burley base, but there is so much better burley out there.
Yeah.
It's like if you've smoked, what is it, Solani aged burley?
Yeah.
All right, if you've smoked that, and that's your introduction to burley.
Yeah.
Which is a kind of a high watermark. But if that's your introduction to burley, and then you go to Haunted Bookshop, I can see how you would not like it. Or if you have something that's oatier, like a Stonehaven.
Yeah.
All right, which is a very oaty burley Virginia blend, right? Bread, oat, it's semi-sweet, but and then you go to Haunted Bookshop. You're not gonna like Haunted Bookshop if you had other burleys.
Yeah, so like I don't hold it against him. It's just I was like, it was funny. I bring it up because it's funny to me. I don't think any less of somebody because they don't like a blend. I don't care. But it's just funny because I was like, oh, he did Haunted Bookshop. Let me see what he said. And then before I even heard his first like intro, I looked down and it said one word, nope. And I go, oh crap. That's not what I want to be involved with. But I haven't had Haunted. It and a couple other blends dried out on me, and I've got them back to life, but I just haven't smoked them yet.
Well, the greatest burley blend, period, bar none, isn't even a blend. Okay, this is going to be controversial. Okay, aged burley is like definitely the best, I think, in terms of what I think an American pipe smoker, British pipe smoker probably likes. But pure Samois or Samoy,
yeah,
that Belgian burley is absolutely the greatest. And that's a weird thing too about that is like you want to talk about ghosting. Smoke that in a pipe. You'll never get that flavor out. Like I ruined a pipe with pure Samois, but I love it. That is the closest you can get as a pipe smoker to smoking a cigar. Period.
Really?
Yes. Comes dry. And you don't moisten it. It just you smoke it dry.
And it's good. I never had it.
It's so crazy good. It's hard to. I can't seem to get it right now. But like, there's 3 blends. There's pure Samois. Then there's Robin Petit, and then there's some other like kind of like upper. But the pure Samois is really good. Comes in a brick.
Oh wow!
It's really good. It's not compressed. It'll break up.
Speaking of cigar, and really not speaking of cigars, there was a pipe that Elder's Pipes was smoking the other day. Mm-hmm. It looked like a cigar, but had the hole on the top. Did you see that one?
Yeah, so it was a calabash.
I love that pipe. It just looked like a cylinder with a hole on top.
I think it's a cylinder calabash. I think he's going to start making a couple of them.
If he does, I'm going to get it. I don't know why. Like, if you look at me and Zach, which y'all haven't, but if you did, I think I would be the more classy pipe guy look? Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, it didn't.
Maybe I'm off base here, but either way, I guess if you know me, you would think both. I guess maybe both of us are more classy, but some of those weird pipes I like too.
Well, I mean, I don't think the Dr. Silence pipe is necessarily the most classical shape in the world, I guess. And I've got some peculiar things at the house, but like, I think that the Italian neoclassical designs are really what I've always gravitated towards. And then the classical shapes of like the British. I've never liked the German shapes.
What are they?
More like freehand, like Japanese German, like they're like tortoises, the tomatoes. Like, I just don't.
Some of them look like they're for weed.
Yeah, like the whales, the snails, I just don't.
I like.
So a lot of them have a tendency to look like sort of the feet on a furniture, like on a couch, like an ornate foot on a couch. So, you know, it comes out into like a griffin claw. Like, that's what those pipes remind me of. It's like, I don't want furniture. You know, these really ornate undercuts and stuff. You know, I don't care.
I like the shape of this guy. I just wish he was bigger.
Yeah, well, that's just a Ben billiard, isn't it?
Yeah. I love a billiard, and well, one of yours, that one you're smoking right now, the Hawkbill.
Mm-hmm.
Hawkbills and authors, I think, are probably my favorite. If I was going to get it down to it. Which a Hawkbill and an author are sort of similar. Just a Hawkbill's a little bit more bent.
Well, yeah.
Just a little bit, but an author's got some weird thing going on with it. But
I basically only smoke vapors out of this Hawkbill. That's why it came out today.
Really, it's one of my favorites of your pipe. Your pipes. I don't know. But Eldridge, all his other, like, you know, his odd off stuff, they're interesting. You know.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, to say that I don't like some of these wild shapes is kind of hilarious, because like then I look at Eldridge pipe stuff and it's like, it's almost like subtly different.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of. But if you can push it all the way to the extreme, then suddenly I'm like, oh, I like that.
Yeah. I am.
It's almost like, it's almost kind of silly, because it's kind of like, yeah, I don't think I want to wear black clothes, but if you put me in bondage pants and like a leather mask, I'd be all for that. Like that super, you know, it's like, I don't want to do like sort of semi-goth. It's either I'm full goth or I'm nothing.
That's funny.
Or whatever.
Yeah, well, that makes. I said something like that the other day, and I can't remember what the topic was, but I was like, either go full or don't go at all.
There is a weird thing about me in absolution, like where it's like, you know, you're going to be the most thing that you could be,
yeah,
or not.
And again, this is not a critique on him. It's just my personal opinion. The pipes with the spikes, I'm not a fan of, but everything else, I generally like. I like that he makes those.
I think the thing is like, you don't like anything, because I feel the same way to a certain extent. I don't like any addition outside of traditional material.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want to the material.
Yeah.
But I don't want any other, like, in other words, if the spikes were somehow a part of the briar, I think I would be more accepting.
Yeah. Like I love the plateau tops. I love that, but that's part of the briar. Like, that's just, you know, it's the way it's done. And I love, I don't know what you call it. There's a type of finish. It's not smooth, but it's not sandblast. But it's smooth, but you can see the grains more. The grains are deeper. You know what kind of finish that is?
You mean like a sandblast finish?
No, it's not like a sandblast, because it's still smooth. You can just feel. You can see the grain. The like. I don't know. I have to find a picture and show it to you. But I wouldn't call it sandblast.
Can you feel the grain?
Yeah, you can feel the grain.
Well, then that's a sandblast.
Okay, it's just
a light sandblast instead of a heavy, or?
Yeah, because I mean, if you look at it from this, it looks like this minus the polish. Like, take polish off this, it looks like that, but you can feel grain.
Well, that might just be an unfinished pipe.
Well, it was already stained black. I mean, it was somebody's that they posted on, like somebody bought it while we were smoking it. Maybe it is an unfinished. Either way, I like it a lot. I like that finish.
Well, what I'm saying is, when I say unfinished, if it's not sandblasted, so it doesn't have specific, like, striations or something, where you can actually feel the grain, right?
Yeah.
So that means it's smooth, but like it doesn't have a wax coating to shine it. Then that's unfinished.
Maybe I like unfinished pipes then.
That if that's, I don't know if you can feel the grain on that though. But like I know that wax coating is going to smooth everything out.
See, and I didn't actually feel that. I saw this on Instagram. It was, but it looked like you could definitely feel that grain.
Well, it's probably just an unfinished pipe then.
Okay. Well, I like that look. That's a nice look. I guess that's the finish. Huh? You got smooth, sandblasted, rusticated. Rusticated is like a type of sandblast, isn't it?
Rustication is when you take essentially a roughing agent, be it the way like nails in a hand pommel thing, right? Or a Dremel with a ball tool, and you just basically just scrape up the pipe, and it has these little bumps and stuff all in it. It's not, if it's sandblasted, then like, it's going to just basically take off the soft grain so you can actually feel it. If it's smooth finish, then it's just sanded down until 600 grit and then finally polished or whatever.
Yeah.
And then what do we call it? We just
rusticated.
Rusticated is when you take something and actually rough up the pipe. It doesn't form to the grain. It's just a way to rusticate or kind of age it to make it look like, it's.
Don't you have a rusticated? Do you have a Castello?
No.
Stephen
yes, I do have I have a Stello. I can show you it. It's inside.
And it's rusticated? Yeah, okay. Yeah.
It's I'll go grab it. Hang on one second.
We're going to take a quick commercial break.
And we're back.
We're back, and we realized that we have been chasing rabbits like we usually do. I think the last thing we were speaking about was rusticated and sandblast. We have looked at 2 examples. I am now educated, and I know what they are. So I believe it is now time to segue into what you've all come for. And it's not pipe tobacco or pipes. It's Dune.
It's Dune, clearly. One last thing, though. This is a good blend. I think you guys should try Verge and Overdrive. Like I said, it's very fruity, fermented, sweet, but it's got kind of a bready undertone. Not as much spice, but I think that's because the Perique is aged. That is a loud cicada.
Welcome to the South, folks.
Yeah, guys. Get a little taste of what it's like to smoke on a porch in the South. It's very good. I do recommend it. I do think it reminds me a lot of Curly Block. Maybe a less... Curly Block's a little bit more subdued, I think. But like, this is very good. This is worth your time. So Verge and Overdrive by Byron Ventures. Check it out.
Worth your time and your money.
So, now what you're all here and waited for.
Here we go.
Book 1.
Book 1 of Book 1.
Of Book 1. Dune.
By Frank Herbert.
Also Dune.
Also Dune.
So Dune, Book 1, Dune.
Yeah, it's sort of like, I don't know if you...
Book 1 of the series called Dune. Book 1 of Dune.
Dune. It's, I don't know if y'all watched the YouTube channel Cinemassacre. But the guy, it's a good channel. If y'all haven't watched that, you need to check it out. He does a good interview with Joe Bob Briggs. But his critique of the 2018 Halloween was it's Halloween, the sequel to Halloween, which is the argument I kept making the entire time. It's like, why? But whatever. So yeah, so we're in.
Can't get rid of that brand name, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, if I was gonna do it, okay, never mind. Table, Dune, Book 1 of Dune. So I had never read this before this reading. I had not, well, I have seen the movie in pieces. I haven't sat down and
The 84 Lynch movie?
Yes, yeah, the Lynch movie. It's got the movie has problems inherently in the beginning of a I don't know, it must have been hard to make that kind of movie in the 80s. But
it kind of hits that exposition overdrive.
Yeah. You're not a Lord of the Rings person. Did you see the movies?
I did see the movies. It's been so long that someone actually said something the other day about it, and I go, "What's that?" And they go, "Lord of the Rings," and I was like, "The Hobbit?" Like, because I literally had no idea. I thought it was like from the newer movies.
Oh yeah.
And they were like, "No, it's from Lord of the Rings." Like when and I go, I don't care.
Well, the opening to the Fellowship of the Ring has this, and it's always been the reason why I don't go back and watch that one a lot. There's like, but at least that's done relatively well for a 2000 movie or a 1999 movie, 2001, whatever. It came out in that time period. It sort of has this exposition intro to sort of explain what's happening, but the 1984 Dune, it's just like whoa, and I was like, this is
It's like forever long.
Yeah, I think it's 20 minutes.
Yeah.
15 or 20 minutes. And then, whatever.
Now, the funny thing is, this is funny, because that is a huge critique of that, because it's technically bad storytelling.
Yeah.
And I say technically bad, because I watched it when I was a kid. Loved that part. I thought it was so awesome. That,
It gave you a lot of information.
And I just was like, oh, this world's so vast. And sometimes it's confusing when people say like exposition is bad, and I'm like, I'm really invested in this exposition though. I don't know why you're giving it such a hard time.
I was like, Star Wars gets a pass, like by the media at hand,
Right?
Because they do exposition too. It's just called a scroll. It's that scroll at the beginning. It serves the same purpose, but nobody's narrating it, and I guess that's why people don't consider it. It's just 3 paragraphs that are pretty short, succinct. They choose their words wisely, and it gives you enough to be like, all right, we're going right in, and nobody's going to narrate this. And I mean, it's a neat way to do it.
I mean, like I said, I don't care. It's fine. I mean, like exposition doesn't. I don't know. It's weird. Like if you could kind of animate exposition with some narration, I thought it was cool.
You just don't want exposition once you're into the meat, right? Like you don't want. You don't want a Star Wars Rogue One where they're gathered around talking and then like, okay, let's just talk. Let me do exposition, explain what we're doing, and it not feel like it's a conversation.
Yeah, I mean they do that a lot in movies now.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you know, they have to explain the whole plot to a certain extent.
And they're getting a little bit more clever about it. I don't. You haven't seen it yet, but I saw Tenet recently, and there's a part where they combine, I guess, the necessity of carrying a dialogue and the way the camera moves, that in my head I was like, this is just exposition. But at least it looks okay. It's like a 5-minute, maybe 6-minute scene, but I was like, this is just exposition, but they're making it pretty, so.
It is weird. Sometimes you kind of curious, like, where do these rules come from? Exposition rules or like anti-expository and all this stuff, you know, because it's like it doesn't pester me all that much, you know, as long as it's interesting. But I guess it does inherently take away from this character needs this thing, and then their adventure goes, you know. I mean, like, you know, to a certain extent that the Lados have to go to Dune to take it over. So we're kind of getting to Dune to kind of push this. And you know, I said the Lados, I mean Atreides, have to go and inherit Dune and they control it and the spice.
Even though they know it's a trap, but it's commanded by the Emperor. So they have to do it. And they talk about how the fact that knowing a trap's there is okay. You just don't need to. You don't need to let them know. You know.
Right, and that's the goal of, you know, the Duke. You know, that's what he's going to do.
And I mean, so okay. Again, coming in this from never seeing it, never reading it before, and only having a limited knowledge of what's happening. So basically, the Emperor, this planet Dune has the spice that it's like the oil of this book. Like it's what everybody wants.
It's what everyone needs.
And this one, because there's a group of royal families, the Lancerad, is that what it's called? They, you know.
I mean, I don't know how to pronounce that word, but that's what it is. It's a collective of just aristocracy.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how it's a futuristic tale, but there's still feudalism at its core?
Yeah, well, you know, I guess you just can't get away from the way people are power structured.
Yeah, can like compare that to like Star Trek, right? I don't think there's any hint of. It's like a complete free society. Like it's like, well, it's not free society. It's community first society.
Right.
Is what Star Trek is. Everything is for the good of mankind, or not mankind, good for all of life.
Right.
And then you get this, and it's like, no, yeah, we're still We're
you
still the
know,
way we were.
it definitely taps into that like ancient myth of magic blood is what I always call it. The god of these people set up the king, and his
Yeah.
bloodline will forever be the holy
Yeah.
bloodline.
But yeah, so this one family has been running Dune. Arrakis is the, I guess, official name of the planet.
For quite a while.
Yeah, the Harkonnens. Is it Harkonnens or
I
Harkonnen?
always said Harkonnens.
Harkonnen, yeah. I hear Harkonnen and Harkonnen in various places.
I have to be careful because, like, sometimes when I hear like Harkonnen, I think of like it's like a British pronunciation,
Yeah.
and I'm like, well, that's the correct one, and I'm like, an American wrote this though, so it's Harkonnen.
Yeah.
It sounds weird that I would, it's like when someone says Latakia and then someone else says Latakia, and I'm like
Latakia.
Latakia.
I've never. Oh my god.
And I'm like, oh, is it Latakia? Because I seem to think that that's a Turkish Middle Eastern pronunciation, so technically it's correct.
Latakia.
But it's Latakia to me. I will never say Latakia. Latakia. It's weird. It's even hard to say, even when I know I'm going to purposely say Latakia.
And that's sort of that calls back to our last episode about even if it is the right way, if you can't say it, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So the Harkonnens have been ruling, or have been in control of the spice, and I'm guessing they're the ones who control how the spice gets to the other houses.
Mm-hmm.
So even though Atreides,
to a certain extent,
okay,
when you control it, you control other aspects to it. Be it smuggling, you have like kind of a hand in smuggling.
Because there are smugglers on the planet, yeah.
And
how did the Atreides get it? How did they get their spice from?
Well,
Arrakis?
everyone, it would be all within a supply chain.
Okay.
Its own specific supply chain.
Even though the Harkonnens are a political, well, they're just a rival of House Atreides, they don't control how House Atreides gets there. They just send it up the ladder.
Right. Now, and the Harkonnens are not a part of like any royal family.
Oh, I thought they were part of the Lancerat.
I think they are, but I don't think that they got it from any type of bloodline. I think that they basically worked themselves into it.
So they're the
It actually mentions it like that they technically, or either that. Golly, I should have taken notes. This is the problem with like kind of doing free verse and trying to speed up. But the Harkonnens, I know they got sort of put on blast by the Atreides. That's the reason they have that feud, because of they were cowardly in a battle.
Oh, okay.
And then, Leto's grandfather, the one that was killed by the bull.
Yeah.
And I think basically said, you guys are cowards and you should have fought and you didn't.
So to go back and sort of try to get an understanding of the difference between these houses, they mention that the Harkonnens are, I don't know if they mention it or if it's just teased, but there's something visually different about the Harkonnens than the Atreides. Now, I know in the movie they seem very pale and they have red hair. I don't remember there being a description of how they actually look specifically in the book. But I mean, is there something supposed to be physically different about them? Like, are they a different race? Or are they just a different house?
I think it's just a different house. I don't think that. I mean, race is in human, not race is in like. I mean, I guess you would say, because I would assume that the Atreides, to a certain extent, are Spanish.
Okay.
I mean, think of it. They got the bullfighting, the matador. I think Leto's described with olive skin, and I feel like the Harkonnen are like German Irish.
Oh, well, that's what I meant when I meant different race, like a different race of the same species.
Right.
Like they're all.
In a way, I was thinking, because when you talk about sci-fi, you think in terms of race, in terms of like, oh, that's the race Splurk Blurk. And they're reptiles.
Isn't that weird how race and species become almost synonyms of each other when you get to a certain point?
Right.
Like, of course, on Earth, race and species are two different things.
Right.
But when you talk fiction, especially science fiction or fantasy, the genre fiction, it gets muddied there.
But to be honest, they're all human. I do think that they have different ethnicities, I guess is the best way to describe that.
Okay, so I had to ask that for other points, other revelations towards the end of this review. But yeah, so that's basically it. They that's sort of the premise of where all this started. Is Harkonnens are running it. And Arrakis is like there's like hardly any water.
Right.
Like there's no type of moisture weather system kind of thing going on.
Yeah, they don't have weather satellites, which is probably by design.
Yeah.
They don't have really. It's a very brutal planet, and it remains brutal because of the spice.
And there's a native, the Fremen.
Mm-hmm.
They don't interact with the Harkonnens.
They hate the Harkonnens. They hate them with a passion.
But so the Fremen, there are no Fremen that are in service.
I think the Harkonnens are like pretty brutal to the Fremen.
But do they use the Fremen as a type of tenant worker? Or
sort of. If you remember the cities where the locals are at, they would do that really nasty thing when they had dinner where they would wash their hands and just throw the towels down on the ground, so they would try to like soap up the water to sell it.
Yeah.
And
Leto did not like that.
Leto did not like that at all.
Shout out Mapes. She's a Fremen and she works for them, don't she?
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out Mapes. She's weird looking in the movie, in the '84 movie.
Mm-hmm.
Super weird looking person. But okay, so you set that all up, and another little tidbit of sort of backstory is that has to do with the what?
We're all over the place. It's really funny. It's a lot to discuss. You really should go kind of face by face because you start on Katydids, and the setup for prophecy.
Yeah, we don't even talk about the prophecy.
Yeah, no, not at all. Which is literally the first chapter of the book, first 2 chapters.
So Paul's mother is the Lady Jessica. She is a member of the Bene Gesserit, which me reading it after reading a little bit of Wheel of Time feels very Aes Sedai-ish. A whole group of women who sort of control. And the cool thing about them is they can see I guess when you become a Reverend Mother, you can see the past of all women, and they're always in search of the Kwisatz Haderach,
mm-hmm.
which, from the way I heard, is since women have 2 X chromosomes and men have an X and a Y, the Kwisatz Haderach is a male who will be able to see the past of female and male, and that's what they want. They want someone who can be able to see all of the past, not just one side of it.
Which in turn sort of makes them prescient. Somewhat.
Yeah.
They have clairvoyant powers.
Yeah. And so on Kaladin, which is very different than Arrakis, it's, there's water, there's oceans and storms and all kinds of mess. That's where the Atreides have lived, I guess, for all their time.
Mm-hmm.
That's their planet. Who's going to rule Kaladin when the Atreides go to Harkonnen?
I don't know.
Arrakis?
They
never talk about that.
Never.
You're going to leave the planet just for whoever.
Unless, the thing is just because they run Dune doesn't mean that they don't still control Kaladin.
But they packed up everybody, though, didn't they? Like, everybody packed up.
All their people, all their specific people, because they probably...
could be more locals there.
But, you could still control other planets. The Harkonnen have the Harkonnen...
Giddy Prime.
Right.
Yeah,
but they didn't. But they also controlled Dune or Arrakis.
Yeah. You figure they would have talked more about. I guess Frank Herbert didn't care about that. About who they would leave in charge of.
Well, you imagine. I imagine there's some Atreides cousin that controls it.
Well, you go on. Tell me what you know.
So, to kind of set it up, it's very interesting how they set it up because, man, you talk about no exposition whatsoever, which is maybe why the book.
Well, the book doesn't have any, so maybe that's why the movie did it.
Right. Because the book is very long and you can just sort of build on concepts, which is fascinating to me because I sort of want you to know everything when I'm writing, which is the wrong way to approach anything.
Yeah.
I'm literally trying to figure out a way to get you into a situation of a novel I was working on where the crux of it needs to be up front, but it's literally just, you can't put that much exposition up front like that. You sort of have to, you sort of have to build into it. So Frank Herbert does a really good job of building in. He throws you right in the middle of the Reverend Mother visiting Jessica and testing Paul Atreides with the Gom Jabbar. Is that right?
I believe so. The box.
And the box, yeah, which is a nerve testing,
Yeah.
and to make him to see if he can withstand having his hand in the box, to test whether or not he's human.
Yeah, human or animal. Because in this world, in the Dune world, there was a time at which there were robots, AI, and there's a war happened, and so now it's illegal to make any kind of machine that is in the likeness of man. So they have these, what are they called? What's Piter called?
Mentat.
Who are just basically human computers, humans who've been conditioned, I guess, to think logically.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so it sort of ties into that. They're testing, or that's how I inferred that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, it's the distinct difference between human and animal, and an animal would remove his hand, or
even knowing that it.
Right.
Because that's sort of the thing you have to.
Because her test is assuming that a human would stick around to kill the person who trapped him.
Well, and she threatens him too at the same time, right? So he puts his hand in the box, and then she like says if he removes it,
she'll stab him in the neck with a Gom Jabbar.
So an animal wouldn't register the anticipation or the presence of potential pain with pain at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas a human's like, I'm gonna feel a little bit pain here, and I'm gonna endure this because I know if I retreat, I will die.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd rather go through a little bit of pain and live than not have the pain and then die.
Right.
So it makes sense. But if you kept that from them and said, just cause that's what I was thinking. I don't know why I thought this, but my head was like, well, if I didn't know that someone was going to kill me, I'd pull my hand out of the thing, like just instinctively.
Yeah, I mean, like, but no animal or human alike would be like, put their hand on a hot eye and be like, well, I got to prove I'm human. So
yeah, it's only with the threat.
It's only with the threat of death
that a human would act that way, whereas an animal doesn't even understand that.
Right.
Well, I guess their viewpoint is an animal
would just try to jerk away.
Yeah, instincts would take over.
So, yeah, instinctually, you would dive away from the immediacy of the pain as a part of the long con, which is I'll lose my hand, but I get to live.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess.
And so that's where we open up.
She's testing, and then the test is to prove that he could potentially be what's the
Kwisatz
word?
Haderach?
Yeah, Kwisatz Haderach.
But now, interesting enough, it's more a little backstory. His mother is a lady Jessica, and she was instructed to only have daughters.
But she decided to have a son because she loved Leto so much.
But what I've never understood is, can she control what the gender of the child is going to be?
Clearly she can.
Or was it more, where I thought it was leaning was, she has the presence to know what the gender is.
And then she can abort it? Or
yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking that either one, she can control the gender, or she can sense what the gender is once it's already there, and then she can make the decision if she's going to keep it or not.
It does seem to me that the Bene Gesserit do have like sort of a complete biological control.
Okay.
They do infer that a little bit, not a whole bunch, but their breathing techniques, all their pacing, and really, it seems like they have a full grasp of their biology.
Okay. But yeah, so she was not, because the whole idea was that the Bene Gesserit wants the Atreides house and the Harkonnen house to combine and, I guess, put an end to their squabble.
Right. And that's the idea, is that an intermingling of the two bloodlines could put a permanent fix of peace between the two houses.
And I think from the perspective of the book, since Jessica had a son about the same age as
the nephew
of Byron, that creates more war, more rivalry.
It does create an extensive amount of tension.
Yeah. So is that sort of all that happens sort of right there
at the beginning? So it's essentially they're moving from Katydids. You get kind of an understanding of like some of the other side characters, like Gurney. You hear a little bit of Duncan Idaho, Thwat, the Mentat for the Atreides.
For how
You don't really get a lot from Leto Atreides.
No, not at the beginning.
Uh,
I think it's like the next chapter that they talk, because it goes from Kaladin to then Giddy Prime, like talking about chapters.
Right.
Chapter 1's on Kaladin, 2 is with the Harkonnens, and then you come back to, and then you get a little bit more going on with the Duke.
right. And then, Giddy Prime and the Harkonnen, basically all it is just letting them know that, like, there is sabotage waiting.
Yeah.
But it seems that every character knows there's sabotage. They just don't know where it's coming from unless they're Harkonnen.
Well, yeah, because why would a family give up? Well, okay, see, it's the Emperor who made the decision, but why would the Emperor all of a sudden decide that he wants a different royal house running, or different house, a family running the spice production? Like, what? Why?
And it was the way it worked was so it's kind of got like a three-form form of government. There's the imperial, the houses, the minor houses, I think, and then they have
the guild, the space
guild.
Yeah, they're like the people who control all travel in space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there's three forms of power, and I think that the Imperial was making a move because there's the Choam, Choam.
Now, where are they at in all this?
Uh,
Because I've heard a comparison to them is like if Apple, Amazon, Google, they all came into one. That's Choam. They just control everything.
Perhaps. Honestly, I have no idea. It seems like I'm so torn into the kind of political intrigue. I don't really think about like kind of the other players, but I think that it controls like the economics of the galaxy.
Okay.
So I'm not sure how that plays out, but it would be like
So really, the Emperor and the royal houses are sort of the same. They're sort of the, I don't know what you call it.
they have the aristocratic,
yeah, they're there.
and then the Choam and the Spacing Guild sort of have the kind of economic, corner. Everyone, see, this is the part that's so crazy. Everyone is 100%, I would imagine, under the control of the Spacing Guild.
Yeah.
Can't get anywhere without the Spacing Guild.
Yeah. And,
seems like they're the most powerful, in my opinion.
Yeah. And let me go back to this. We know why the Emperor wants to do this, because the Emperor, because the Duke is getting real popular amongst the rest of the Landsrat.
Right.
And he fears that he could replace him, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole reason. But what's the political reason to the House Atreides as to why this is happening? Like what example? What's the reason they've been given? And they never talk about what that reason is.
They know that there's a trap from the Harkonnen. They just don't realize that it's as deep imperially. Yeah. I guess.
I think I could be getting the book and the '84 movie confused, but when you meet Paul for the first time in the movie, and they Gurney Halleck and Thufir Hawat and Wellington Huey, they start talking about this move and about how there is a trap. And Paul's the one who says, "I suspect the Emperor is involved." Or
I think that is in the book.
Okay, so they suspect it. They don't know. They know there's a trap. They know the Harkonnens are involved, but they suspect.
Well, they definitely know once those sort of fanatic warriors show up that are dressed as Harkonnen.
I was going to talk about the Sardaukar.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another part of the knowing it's a trap, but playing along with it anyway, because as much as Duke Leto, he's very much a humanitarian in a way. Mm-hmm. Like he treats people the way they ought to be treated. He still realizes there could be a use for the Fremen, because the Fremen could be, because they live on such a harsh planet, they could be a new form of Sardaukar.
Well, I guess his idea of leadership is to get everyone unified.
Yeah.
Because he I guess it's like the whole "a house divided cannot stand" kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's the same concept, except
on a planet-wide
basis. Yeah.
Which he has
which is why he tried to really sort of. I mean, he sent Duncan Idaho in there to help with relations with the Fremen, and kind of getting everyone sort of on the same page.
Yeah. And he has he has a propaganda man, like a PR person
Yeah.
that he's using to help push that along,
Mm-hmm.
go to the local cities. But the difference is, which this is sort of getting into further part of the book, but it's not necessarily a spoiler, there are Fremen who don't live in the cities.
Right. But the Fremen, you said they never interact with the Harkonnen. I mean, they didn't work with them. They hated the Harkonnen. There was even a whole thing about like the extremities of the Fremen's relations with the Harkonnen, where it's like if a Harkonnen came into a room and sat in a chair, the Fremen would burn that chair.
Really?
Yeah.
Speaking of like different things the Fremen do, is it Liet Kynes when he first meets with the Duke, he spits on the table?
Was it Kynes?
I thought it was.
It
No,
prob-
it's Stilgar.
It's Stilgar.
Because Duncan brings Stilgar in.
Right.
Because Kynes isn't a. He's not
Kynes
a Fremen.
isn't Fremen.
But he's gone native.
Right, yeah.
You know,
as I say.
his eyes are blue and everything like that already. Because isn't that the case? The spice, once you start taking the spice, like, if you stop, you're dead. Like, you sort of, it becomes an addiction, but you can't stop it.
Right.
It becomes so much a part of you.
If you are addicted to spice, I don't think you can leave the planet.
Yeah. But either way, what I'm saying is Stilgar spits on the table.
Right.
And they think it's a sign of disrespect, but he's like, no, it's sort of like bloodletting. It's the same thing, like I'm
Right.
giving some of my...
The water of my life.
Yeah. Because they cherish water so much.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much going on. Like I said, it's so hard for me not to compare it to Wheel of Time. Granted, Wheel of Time came later, and I'm sure Wheel of Time took a lot of stuff.
Right.
But it's so interesting. There's so many parallels that Robert Jordan, I don't know if he intentionally did this or if it was...
It's hard to avoid Lord of the Rings. It's hard to avoid Dune.
Yeah. Well, I mean, don't they always talk about Star Wars?
And they're iconic. I mean,
yeah,
you can watch Star Wars and be like, oh, this is just Lucas taken from Dune. I mean, look at just Tatooine. It's Dune.
Yeah. Isn't that the funniest thing that... So, I would love to go back and, like, talk to my grandparents or my father was born in, like, 49. So, like, I would have loved to talk to him in, like, 55 and been like, what is your idea of space? You know, like, what... If you were going to watch a movie or watch some kind of documentary, somehow they got a camera into space, what do you think it would be like on other planets?
Mm-hmm.
But then go to somebody who's born, like my siblings, some of my siblings were born in the 70s or 80s, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go to the 80s. What's their idea of space? Well, you got Star Wars, you got Dune, everything's in the desert. Well, so, like, to me, that just seems weird. Like, I don't think desert would have been your first idea of space. If we didn't have pop culture influencing us,
Mm-hmm.
or the culture at large, media, but it all becomes from Frank Herbert was an ecologist or whatever. He did he took his years of time to research what Arrakis was going to be, made it that way, and then Star Wars took from it.
All right. I mean, it does seem like it's definitely kind of a cop out when you look at Star Wars because it is just it's a desert planet. There really isn't anything significant about Tatooine. As a matter of fact, they don't even seem to struggle with being on a desert planet.
All it is a slave planet. Or there's always slaves there.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you don't hear people really getting, like, upset about water shortages or anything like that.
And they don't have any kind of, like, source. Like Dune has spice. Like, that's the only thing that makes Arrakis
right. Tatooine's just, like, this crappy gangster planet.
Yeah. And I mean, from what I remember, I think it is on the outer edges of not the known galaxy, but the Galactic Empire. It's out there on the edges.
But the Hutts still don't control it to an extent. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I don't know.
I mean, they do, but they don't. I mean, like, you gotta look at it this way. It's like, if the Hutts controlled it, which I guess technically they do. The Hutts control Tatooine. The Hutts ain't anything with the Empire. If the Empire showed up and just said, I'm just gonna take this down, like, the Hutts would lose, period.
The Hutts are in... They have enough power they have the power where it counts. So the people that they're over, they're the ones in power, right?
Right.
It doesn't matter who's above them, in the sense of if you're being ruled by the Hutts.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things going on with Dune. So, sort of to speed this up a little bit, they find out somehow they get to Arrakis. They decide to start staying in the old capital city, not the one that the Harkonnens were in. Arrakeen, I believe, is the one that the Atreides are going to.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever, they get acclimated to the place, whatever, as best they can. They go out and see how it all happens, the spice mining, all the stuff. They witness a worm
Destroying the entire...
Yeah.
And Leto's really good about, like, being concerned about his men.
But, yeah, so you see a lot about Leto and what kind of person he is. But then you also tap into that Paul knows a lot. Because Paul senses... Because he sees a couple Fremen run off.
Right.
And Liat Kynes, who's the one who brought him out there, he was like, well, he plays off this, like, sort of, well, that's the danger of this job, leave him be. And Leto's like, no, we need to get him. But then Paul's sort of like, Liat Kynes is not telling the truth here. Because basically what he's...
And Kynes even infers that, like, he knows how to properly adjust his still suit. He knows how he can sense the Fremen. And it sort of kind of relates into that prophetic, the prophecy of the Muad'Dib.
And Paul keeps doing things like the prophecy was that he would greet them, with religion,
like religious overtones, so prophecy,
and then bless their gifts, and then also that he would know their ways as if he was born to them, or something like that. Which ties into, we didn't talk about this, the Bene Gesserit. What's it called? The Maxima Proctiva or something like that? They go to planets and sort of create the lore, the prophecy that will be fulfilled. So the Bene Gesserit they came to Arrakis and laid down these prophecies a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're manipulating the system to where those prophecies are being fulfilled now. Now, to the extent of how they control it fully, I don't know.
Well, it probably has something to do with the fact that they actually did have a male Bene Gesserit at one point, and he probably set the stage for a lot of that, is what I imagine.
I didn't think about that. See, again, more connections to the Wheel of Time. So in the Wheel of Time, there's all these Aes Sedai, who are basically the magic users, and there once was men and women, but then the male half of the magic system got tainted. So all men who are magic wielding, they either are killed because they could destroy the world, or they go crazy eventually. The magic makes them go crazy. So now in the world that you're in, you only have women ones. But the savior of the world will be a male Aes Sedai.
Mm-hmm.
So they're waiting for that, but they're also killing everyone. They're also killing all these fake dragons reborn because they're afraid of a male who can channel magic.
Right.
So there's a lot of interesting things that are going on. It's a little bit less to that extent in Dune because they're not trying to kill all these males, but they were actively trying not to have one being born.
It is. I mean, the Reverend Mother does say that it's his foolish pride. Even Jessica admits that it is pride that she would think that she was capable of harboring the first male Bene Gesserit, or the
Kwisatz Haderach.
But I mean, like, so that there is like a certain amount of like, well, this is impossible, but it's not. We don't know what the problem.
Yeah. Another cool thing about the book, if you're reading it, there's a header at the beginning of each chapter that is like from a future time,
right?
Sort of giving you. So
it's the Imperial daughter.
Yeah, Princess Orlan.
Yeah.
It's so whatever, they get back from their spice mining, I guess visual whatever, and the Duke gets they intercept some kind of letter from the Harkonnens to the Emperor or somebody that there's a traitor amongst them, which was the plan of the Harkonnens. They were going to set up a traitor, but the traitor is Wellington Yueh, and the readers know that well in advance before it happens.
Almost like chapter 3 or 4.
Yeah. Because I think the header says that he will be known forever from this point as a traitor or something. But they set it up to make it think that it's Lady Jessica. And now the Duke does not believe it's Lady Jessica, but he needs to buy into this trick. He needs to sell it.
Right.
So he tells Paul, like, listen, I don't believe your mother is the traitor, but I'm going to have to sell this. And if something were to happen to me, you need to let her know that I never lost faith in her.
Right.
Yeah. But what's funny is, and this will keep showing up, his council doesn't know that.
Right.
His council.
That was the
still think-
weird thing. Is like, I feel like he should have let his mentat know.
Yeah.
I
At least
mean,
him.
like, isn't he a strategist? Like, why wouldn't you let the person who you're trying to suss out, the strategist, know?
And I'm guessing, okay, another point, they don't think that the mentat is the traitor because the mentats are conditioned to a certain. No, wait, not the mentats.
The doctor.
It's the doctor. Yeah. Well, maybe
He's got that diamond seal. He's been what is it? It's like an imperial indoctrination. It's like conditioning. It's some sort of conditioning.
Yeah, he went to a certain school.
Right,
where,
and they
where that happened.
condition them.
So that way that these doctors won't, because there's so much backstabbery, they can't have a doctor that could kill you. Like, you can't have a doctor that's paid off by another house to kill them.
Right.
They need to be loyal to their houses. Either way, I guess maybe he didn't tell his mentat because he thought that mentat may be in on it.
Right.
That Thufir Hawat thinks that maybe that's why he didn't tell him.
But you find out that there is a way around that conditioning. And it's because Yui hates the Harkonnens because they stole his Bene Gesserit wife and basically tortured and killed her.
Yeah. And I believe book 1 ends where the betrayal has occurred. It's been set
Yui
in
is
motion.
his paralyzed Leto.
But he has told him that
He gave him a false tooth
false tooth.
with poison in it.
And then once he bites down on it,
it'll kill everyone basically in the room. But before he can even do that, Piter, the mentat for the Harkonnen, the corrupted assassin mentat, kills Yui.
Yeah.
And then
but
Leto bites the tooth, kills Piter, some of the guardsmen, and then almost kills Baron Harkonnen, but doesn't because Baron Harkonnen has a shield on.
But now the Yui told him that because Yui was like, "You're going to die either way, so just follow me. I'll at least be able for you to take out Baron as well."
And then promises to keep Lady Jessica and Paul Atreides alive.
Yeah. So okay, so this is a confusion for me. So his whole plan was so the Harkonnens were going to attract a traitor. So his whole idea was it might as well be me, and I'll do it, but it's all because I'll end up killing Baron at within it.
The only reason he got around his social conditioning, Yui, is because the Harkonnens had his wife, the Bene Gesserit.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow that want for revenge was so strong that it actually broke his conditioning, that imperial conditioning.
But his way of killing Vladimir, because of his hatred, was to go along with him being the traitor. Because I guess what I'm getting at is why go through all this? Why paralyze the Duke to then try to get the Vladimir killed? Why?
The Vladimir?
Oh, that's his. Oh, sorry, the Baron. His first name is Vladimir.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Baron Vladimir Harkonnen.
Mm-hmm.
Why follow through with all this if his end game isn't really to kill Duke? It's to kill Baron.
I guess that's just the closest way he can to kill the Baron.
See, I thought it was because, and maybe I thought I gathered this from some of the information in the context was the Harkonnens would have been able to get a traitor at some point anyway. And
potentially.
And so Wellington Yui was like, I will do this, that way I have control over the situation of the betrayal, and I can give the gas thing to the Duke.
I think that's just a silver lining for him to break his social conditioning. I don't think his plan was I think he just wanted to kill the Baron. Okay.
Well, that's sort of that's.
And the Harkonnens had to kill anyone involved with anything, because they were going to be, in it was very, in legal terms, like very to the book. I mean, like he couldn't know what could happen, so because basically the Bene Gesserit have the equivalent of a polygraph, like a human polygraph, and they would question everyone. So plausible deniability is what the Harkonnens are all about. So kill anyone involved. Huey had to die. Yui, and then anyone even the people who transported Jessica and Paul Atreides, they had to die when they got back.
Yeah.
I mean, that was mentioned. anyone, because it couldn't go back to the Imperial, because it would basically align the houses against the Empire.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to basically undermine the Atreides so they couldn't become the Empire, the Emperor. At the same time, not give too much credit to the houses aligning and going against the Emperor also. A lot of political intrigue in this.
Yeah, there is a lot of political intrigue. Well, that was a pretty quick, roundabout, mismatch way of describing the first part of Dune.
The first part is very much set up.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you guys, because you think there's a lot going on. There's betrayal there, and there is. That's not to say, but like, there is so much setup. You really have to understand, like, the way Jessica handles Watt, and how Yui sort of manipulates Jessica to not suspect him, because he was sort of trained by the Bene Gesserit wife that he lost to the Harkonnens, and the Harkonnens have to basically eliminate anyone setting up, like, the Beast eventually to be the guiding hand of Arrakis, especially after Piter died. Yeah, so there's a lot to set up.
And if we skimmed over some stuff, when we get back to doing book 2, which is called Muad'Dib, we may have to do a little touch up. There may be some stuff that we skimmed over. There's just so much.
There's so much stuff. I mean, we could break it. The best way to do this would be chapter by chapter, but we're not going to do that. We're going to tell you up front, we recommend this book.
Yeah.
There is a film coming, so it'd be worth a read.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a general overview. And the general overview for book 1 is it's essentially a betrayal. It's very Shakespearean. Betrayal for setup. And it literally plays itself out like Hamlet. You know, father gets killed, uncle is a bastard. You can look at it as the Lion King. It's this tale as old as time, except that Baron Harkonnen ain't an uncle; he's a grandfather. Oh, I kind of spoiled that. Well, you'll find out
in book 2.
In book 2.
But so, we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we hope that you come back for the next one. We will have a little bit different stuff going on. Like, I think we teased that. A little bit more spooky stuff, some Lovecraftian,
and maybe a format.
Yeah, maybe a format. The search, our adventure to find
we like format. Just talking, but I think that there is something to be said for making. I was thinking one of the best things to do is to try to narrow it down to a time frame.
Yeah. And
actually time our segments, so we know when we wrap up a couple topics and timer.
Well, look forward to that, and we hope that you had a good smoke with us, and we'll see you next month.
Next month, guys.